Hey guys, it is Friday. You should be totally expecting where we're at right here. So, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to check out the calendar. So, we're going to start with area and perimeter today. So, let's just go ahead and get that area going. So, it's Friday. Thought we'd just get a little pep going before we get started. Hoping you guys are all with it. Let me pop this off real fast just to make sure. Get that going. We'll hit a quick pause and then we're right back to it. Okay, so first thing we have to do on this is we've got to find the area. Now remember, area is the amount of square units inside an object. So let's start out with writing down the formula. Area equals length times width. You've only heard that a million times. All right, so the length is the bottom. The width is the side. So as we are looking at our length from here all the way to here, you can tell it is almost 2 whole. And if we turn that into eighths, okay, so here is 8/8 to here, 9/8, 10/8, 11/8, 12/8, 13/8, 14/8, 15/8. All right. Now, if we do our width, looks like almost the exact same width that we have for our length. Okay. And you can see 7/4 is right here, which would be 14/8. Go one more, and we have a width of 15/8. Now, I'm going to do this, both of them, as just simple improper fraction. So we have length, so we have area equals 15/8 times 15/8. Now, none of these, so the 8s cannot cross cancel with these 15s because they do not share a common factor other than 1. So I've got to go 15 times 15. So quickly do 15 times 15. Got about 10 more seconds. 15 times 15. And our answer is 225. So we have 225. And 8 times 8 is 64. Major improper fraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to take fractions as division. Remember, all this means is this number over here, 225, represents the top dot on a division bar. The line means divided by, and the bottom dot means the denominator down here, which is 64. So I'm going to take 225, divide it by 64. I know that I've got 3 64s. 3 times 4, 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 1 is 19. Do my subtraction. 5 minus 2 is 3. 22 minus 9 is 3. That's going to leave me with 3, and I'm going to put 33 over 64. 3 and 33 64ths. So that's going to be my area. All right. Now, let's go right back to doing our perimeter. Okay, so we know that this is 15/8. We also know that this is 15/8. So that is a square. If these adjacent sides have the same measurement and we know that opposite sides are equal, this would be 15/8 and this would be 15/8. So I'm going to do just multiplication of this. So the perimeter could equal A plus B plus C plus D, or in this case, I'm going to do it as the perimeter equals 15/8 times 4 of them, because all of these would have been 15/8 up here. 15/8 plus 15/8 plus 15/8 plus 15/8. Now, if I have 4 15s, 15 times 4 is what? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Okay, so here it is, 15 times 4. Hopefully you got 60. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. So we have 60 over 8. So we're going to take fractions as division again. 60 divided by 8. And I know that 8 goes into 60 at least 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56. I have 4 left over. 7 and 4/8, and 7 and 4/8 can reduce by finding the greatest common factor of 8 and 4. So if I wanted the GCF of 8, GCF of 4, I have 1 times 4, 2 times 2. For 8, I have 1 times 8. I have 2 times 4, and that is it. So I know that they share 1, I know that they share 2, and I know that they share 4. So what I would do is divide this by 4. So 7 and 4/8 equals itself with a long line. And I'm going to divide it by the greatest common factor, which is 4. And that's going to leave me with 7 and 1/2 as the perimeter. Hope you guys are keeping up on that. Hope we're rocking on this. So as we get ready for this next one, I'm going to give you a little bit of time. So we go right on to here. Here it is. So we have day 27. And I want you to turn this into not only a fraction for addition, so fractional addition, but also decimal. So let's start with a fraction. Give you about 30 seconds. Kind of get ahead of me here. Okay. And then I'm going to jump right in, starting with fractions. Okay. What is a dime worth? So if you are doing this as a fraction, you are saying this is 1/10. Okay, well, if that's 1/10, and this is 1/10, and this is 1/10, 1/10, 1/10, 1/10. Let's add all those up. 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. So this side is 6/10. And then that would make this side over here, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well, 6/10. So we're going to take 6/10 plus 6/10. I'm just going to add the numerators. 6 plus 6 is 12 over the number 10. Now I've just got to do fractions as division again. 12 divided by 10. 10 goes into 12 one time. 1 times 10 is 10. Leaves me with 2. There's nothing left to bring down, so I'm going to put that over 10. So the answer is 1 2/10, or 1 1/5, if I took the greatest common factor of 10 and 2, which is 2. And I would divide both numerator and denominator by the greatest common factor. All right. Now, if we were to add this as just decimals, let me get rid of this. Decimals, same thing. We all know in here, and we've been working really hard on this, to know that 6/10 as a decimal is the same as 0 and 6/10. And we know it's 0 and 6/10 on both sides. So both of these 6/10 equal this. Now, the cool thing about 0 and 6/10, you know that the number is greater than 0 but less than 1. So both of these numbers are are greater than 0 but less than 1. So when we add them together, obviously they're going to be, the sum of those two numbers is going to be less than 2. So we're going to take 0 and 6/10 plus 0 and 6/10. 6 plus 6 is 12. Carry the 1. 1 plus 0, 1. Bring down that decimal, 1 and 2/10. And that would be the same as 1 and 2 over 10. Or as Raina is sitting at home saying, Mr. Dagnan, it's 1 1/5. Yes, it is. All right. Hoping you guys are taking advantage of this. Remember, pause often. Okay, pause often. Hope we have big plans going into the week, our weekend. I know I'm pretty excited about it. Not really that I have much to do, but it'll be kind of nice sleeping in tomorrow. All right. So let's look at what we are doing today. So we are converting larger units to smaller units. And that's the same thing we've been doing. Taking one big large unit and turning it into what its conversion is. All right, let's just start by reading this. So look at that right there. Paris, 3.5 kilometers. In some parts of the world, travel distances on road signs and maps are given in kilometers. How many meters are there in 3.5 kilometers? 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. Now, immediately, that is reading 1. Let's do our 2 more reads, just so first of all we can find information, then we can move right along so we can understand the problem as well. So, in some parts of the world, travel distances on road signs and maps are given in kilometers. How many kilometers are there in 3.5 kilometers? Okay, here's some important information, but that's also a squiggly for us because we know we are trying to solve that. So in the whole grand scheme of this problem, we have to solve how many meters there are. Well, let's just start it out. They started us giving us a conversion, which was really nice of them. Okay, so we are going to start with our biggest unit of measurement, which in this case is kilometers. Okay, kilometers, we are going to go to meters. And I like how they did this here with the half a meter. So I'm going to kind of throw a little monkey wrench in here. I'm going to go with a half of a kilometer. If 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters, a half a kilometer would be how many meters? Pause if you need to. Should have come up with 500. Okay, now let's throw the next one in there. 1 kilometer, 1.0. Well, we know 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. And we know that for every half a kilometer, it's 500. So let's just do our next one. 1.5 kilometers equals 1,500 meters. And I'm going to make this much longer. Okay, 2 kilometers, what's it going to equal? Pause if you need to. 2,000 meters. 2.5 kilometers is going to equal 2,500. And you can see the pattern, how you can just tell that from X to Y, it is X times 1,000, and it will equal Y. That's our relationship. Okay, so now we're going to go from 2.5 up to 3, and every half a kilometer is 500. So now we have 3 to 3,000. And now we are getting to where we're at 3.5 kilometers. And this is as far as I have to go. 3.5 kilometers is 3,500 meters. All right. So we have an answer. We know what it is, but we can't just stop there with the table. What I want you to do is now come in and let's just solve this. So let's take a look. So we have 3.5 kilometers, and we know that equals itself 3.5 times in parentheses, because this is what I'm going to convert, 1 kilometer. All right. Now, all we've got to do is make the simple 1 kilometer to 1,000 meters as we do our conversion. So here it is. That's the same as 3.5 times the converted unit of measurement, which is meters, times 1,000 meters equals 3.5. And I'm just going to show you where I would have my decimal, even though I don't. If I multiply by a power of 10 and it has 3 zeros, I can move it over 3 spots. 1, 2, 3. And therefore, it is going to be 3,500 meters. How are we doing so far? Okay, feeling pretty good about this. It should be a skill that we've got kind of developing. All right, so let's look to the next part. So just going to read and kind of show you where the book was coming from, and it's very similar to what we were doing. They did horizontal tables, but I prefer vertical just to see it that way. So read it again. In some parts of the world, travel distances on road signs and maps are given in kilometers. How many meters are there in 3.5 kilometers? 1 kilometer equals 1,000 meters. So they said we could have used a table to understand the problem, which we do. We know we get candy if we do tables in this class because that's just how we are. We're cool that way. The table below shows the relationship between meters and kilometers. So look at that, 1,000 meters for every 1 kilometer. Nice relationship. And that would allow us, if we know that for every 1 kilometer, this we could call X, all we would have to do is know we could just multiply it by 1,000 to get what we would call Y at any point. So if I had 10 right here for 10 kilometers, I know that it would be 10,000 meters. Now you could go down to solve it. Use the information from the table to show how to solve the problem. So now they went 1 to 1,000, 2 to 2,000, 3 to 3,000. Then they threw that little half in there. And we remembered that a half a kilometer equals 500 meters. So therefore, 3.5 kilometers is 3,500 meters. Doing good? I hope so. All right. Pause if you need to. Okay. So, which is the smaller unit of measurement? Okay. So, question 1. What's the smaller unit of measurement? Meters or kilometers? Take a little tiny pause on that. Hoping you know this. Remember, there's 1 to 1,000. And obviously, it is meters are smaller. Okay, meters are, if you stretch your arms out, just to both to the outsides of your body, about 12 inches from your body, that's about a meter wide. Okay, so how do we know? Well, we know that it takes 1,000 meters to equal 1 kilometer. What operation do you use to convert from large measurement unit to a smaller measurement unit? So, in other words, how do we go from kilometers to meters? And if I have 1 to 1,000, how did I get, and I've talked about this before, from X to Y? Remember, we went X times 1,000 to equal Y. And obviously, looking at that operation right there, it is multiplication. Hopefully you guys have paused at least once in there. Okay, so 3.5 kilometers equals, and we answered this on the other side, it equaled 3,500 meters. All right, next question. So now, remember, if you go from kilometers to meters, all you are doing from this way is to say, let's multiply that by 1,000. So 8 tenths multiplied by 1,000 is going to be, and it's almost like saying 1, it's going to be 800 meters. Okay, 1 kilometer, 1,000 meters. 1 and 85 hundredths of a kilometer. How much is that? Okay, pause if you need to. Most of you probably wrote the 185, and now you're just going to move the decimal to 1,850. 2 goes to 2,000. 2 and 3 hundredths. Pause if you need to. 2,030. And 3 with 3,000. Okay, how many meters are in K kilometers? And K is just a fancy way of using X again. So how you would figure that out, it would be 1,000 times K. Okay, or you could have written it this way, 1,000 algebraically times K. Another way you could have done it is just 1,000 K. Remember, if a letter touches a number, you're going to multiply. If you're one of those control freaks, you can put it in parentheses. All right. So there are 3 feet in 1 yard. Explain how you decide whether to multiply or divide by 3 if you need to convert yards to feet. Okay. So we know that if I have 1 yard, it equals 3 feet. I want you to set up a table. Okay, go yards, go feet. 1 yard, 3 feet. 2 yards, 6 feet. Okay, now I'm going to ask you to kind of pause this, look at what you have, explain how you decide whether to multiply or divide by 3 if you convert yards to feet. Taking yards to feet. Giving you a little pause here. How many of you looked at this as an X to a Y? All right, so to go from X to Y, to go from yards to feet, all I would have to do is say, okay, X times what equals Y? So I would go yards times 3 will equal feet. All right, I'm going to give you just a moment. Do the reflect really quick. Look back at your try it strategies by classmates. Well, you don't have classmates here, so this is just you. Model it and solve it. Which models or strategies do you like best for converting larger units to smaller units? Explain. Give you just a second. I'm going to turn the page. And there goes the light, so this is a perfect time. Hit your pause. I'm going to move forward. On to the next question. Okay. How many ounces are there in 4.5 pounds? Show your work. Okay. How many of you are instantly ready for that table? You're just, you need to do a table. Okay, not just because you're wanting candy. Someone whose name might be Sophia here. Yep, I ratted you out to everybody. But we know that we have 16 ounces to 1 pound. Set that table up. Okay. So we have pounds on one side, ounces on the other. 1 pound. How many ounces? 16. 2 pounds. What's 16 plus 16? 32. 3 pounds. It's going to be 48. 4 pounds, add 16 more. It's going to be 64. And I'm going to go to 5. 5 pounds is going to be 80. Now, I want to just ask you, why did I go between 4 and 5 pounds? So I know, answer your question, answer it in your head, but my answer lies right here, in between these two numbers. So if I do that, I know that the range between these is going to be somewhere between 80 and 64. So, and if I did that, I know the difference between these two is 16. So let's try to figure that out. What is a half of a pound? 1/2 pound equals 8 ounces. So I know that I have 4 pounds plus 1/2 pound. My pen is dying, guys. Let me switch it out really quick. So all we do is this. Oh, it's in red too, of all things. So 4.5 pounds equals 4 times 1 pound plus 1/2 pound. All right. What's that going to equal? Okay. 4 times 1 pound is going to be the same as 4 times, in parentheses right here, 16 ounces plus, in parentheses, 8 ounces. I know 4 times 16 is 64 ounces plus 8 more ounces. It's going to be 72 ounces. Now, hopefully you guys are pausing as we go. Hopefully everything is just kind of going just as good as possible. Remember, it's up to you to pause. I've only got a limited amount of time I can post on YouTube. The first night when I was posting, they actually erased my video. I guess I was a little long-winded. It must have been it. All right, let's go on to the next one. How many millimeters are in 9 and 25 centimeters? Show your work. 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So, centimeters, millimeters, 1 centimeter, 10 millimeters. 2 to 20, 3 to 30, 4 to 40, 5 to 50. I'm just going to keep on with my table. Centimeters, millimeters, 6 for 60, 7 for 70, 8 for 80, 9 for 90, and now 10 for 100. How many millimeters are in 9.25 centimeters? Okay, so if I had 9 centimeters, I know it's 90. And if I had 10, I know it's 100, but it's 9.25. So it's going to be somewhere in between these two right here, between 9 and 10. So it's going to be between 90 and 100. All right. So jump right over here. 9.25 centimeters equals, and I'm hoping you guys saw this relationship here. X times 10 will equal Y. So that's going to be the same thing. 9.25 centimeters equals 9.25 times 1 centimeter. That's going to be the same as 9.25 times what? What's 1 centimeter for a conversion? 10 millimeters. And 9.25 times 10, all we've got to do is slide that decimal. I'm going to slide it over one little spot because it's multiplying by a power of 10. It's going to be 92.5 millimeters. Hope you got it right. So if you did get it right, keep it up. If you didn't, go back and see what I was doing with the tables. See about the conversions, how we got there. Okay. Ravi's fish tank can hold 65 liters of water. How many milliliters of water can the fish tank hold? 1 liter equals 1,000 milliliters. Now we've talked about, liters to milliliters repeatedly. All right. So let's read it for a second time. Ravi's fish tank can hold 65 liters of water. Okay. I'm going to do a little bit of jumping, but here we have liters. Here we have milliliters. So if I have 1 liter, I have 1,000 milliliters. 2 would be 2,000. 3 would be 3,000, and so on. So to go from the liters to milliliters, you should be able to see that this is the same as saying X times 1,000 to equal Y. The liters is your X coordinate, your milliliters is your Y coordinate. So if I take 65 liters right here, and all I've got to do is multiply it by 1,000, well, 65 times 1,000, 65 times 1,000. I know I'm multiplying it by a power of 10 with 3 zeros. And all I'm going to do is move my decimal over 3 spots equals, so I'm going to write 65, 1, 2, 3, 65,000 milliliters. Therefore, your answer is D. All right, let's continue. How many milliliters are in 2 and 52 hundredths meters? The table shows the relationship between meters and millimeters. So 1 meter, 1,000 millimeters. 2 meters, 2,000. 3, 3,000. 4, 4,000. 5, 5,000. So to go from, here is X, here is Y, okay? To go from top to bottom, we have a relationship of X times 1,000 to equal Y. Now, if I wanted to go from Y to X, I would go Y divided by 1,000 equals X. What property am I using if I do that? It's the inverse. Okay. Now, to find the number of millimeters in 2 and 52 hundredths meters, multiply 2.52 times 1,000. And that's how we would get 2,520. So here's 2.52 times 1,000. Moving that decimal 3 places. 1, 2, and 3. Put in that 0. That would equal 2,520. So which is a larger unit? Meters or is it millimeters? Okay, get a quick answer for you. What's larger? Okay, meters are larger. Okay, millimeters are just barely the width of the tip of that pen. Okay, how can you find how many milliliters are in 4 and 6 hundredths meters? Give you 30 seconds. All right, I'm hoping you said you multiply 4 600 meters times 1,000. Because remember, for every 1 millimeter, there's for every 1 meter, there's 1,000 millimeters. So meters to millimeters, 1 to 1,000. 4.06 would be 4.06 times 1,000. Okay, so how many millimeters are there? Next question, in 4.06 meters, multiply it by 1,000. 4.06. Here's where the decimal is right now, but multiply it by 1,000, move it 1, 2, 3 spots, put a 0 and a decimal, and it's 4,060. All right, what I want you to do, you're going to fill in the missing information on the table. Okay, just write what the answer should be really quick. So while you're doing that, I'm going to come down here. See if I can move this out of the way. I'll put the answers in. There goes lights again. All right, 10 more seconds as you catch up. Remember, all you're doing is you are multiplying by 1,000 from meters to millimeters, and there we go. So from 4 to get to 4,000, all we did was multiply by 1,000. And to go from the bottom up, you would divide by 1,000. Remember, meters would be X, millimeters would be Y. So what operation do you use to convert from the larger to the smaller? You are going to multiply. All right, last page. The pattern in the table shows that the number of centimeters is always 100 times the number of meters. Fill in the missing number of centimeters. So, and if this confuses you, just rewrite it. Okay? Just go meters, centimeters. 1 meter, 100 centimeters. 1.5 meters, 150. And then you can see the relationship, how you are just sliding your decimal out 2 spots. 1 would go over 2 spots to 100. Okay, so now we get 2, and that's 200 multiplying by 100. So if we have 2 7/100, well, that's going to be multiplied by 100 to 207. 3 would go to what? 300. 3 26/100 would go to 326. And 4 easily would go to 400. All right. A football player runs 13.5 yards. How many feet does he run? Show your work. All right. This is where I get pretty pumped and excited. So we actually get to use our conversion. So we're going to go yards. We're going to go feet. 1 yard, 3 feet. 2 yards, 6 feet. 3 yards, 9 feet. And you can just continue to use the chart. All right, so this would be yards. This would be feet. 4 yards would be 12. 5 would be 15. Who sees the 1 to 3 relationship? Okay, 6 would be 18. 7 would be 21. And now we could just double this, and I could get to 14. 14 would be 42. So now I'm just going to move it right here. 13 and 1/2 yards equals 13 times 1 yard plus 1/2 yard. Okay, so we're going to feet. Well, what would a half of a yard be? If 1 equals 3, a half would be 1.5 feet. So I'm going to change yards to feet. That's going to be the same as saying 13 times, what's our conversion from yards? 1 yard is 3 feet plus a half of a yard, and that's going to be 1.5 feet. So I know that we have 13 times 3 feet. It's going to be 39 feet plus 1.5 feet. So 39 plus 1.5 feet, it's going to be 40 and 1/2 feet. All right. Remember, if you have a question, go back. You might have a question with this original half yard. Okay, so that might be where you kind of had a little bit of confusion, but just remember, half of 3 is 1.5. So if I do a half of a yard, half of 3 is 1.5. Okay, and that's just like thinking of it like in terms of like here's 3 circles. Okay, so if I turn these into halves, okay, into 2 equal size groups, here is 1 whole plus a half. Here's 1 whole plus a half. That's how I knew that 1/2 of 3 is 1.5. All right, there are 24 hours in a day. If you want to convert days to hours, should you multiply or divide by 24? Okay, think about this for about 30 seconds. If I want to go from days to hours, okay, think about this. Day, hour. 1 day, 24 hours. How did I get from here to here? 2 days, 48 hours. What did I do? What did I multiply 2 by to get to 48? So, do I multiply or divide? I multiply by 24. All right. Look at problem 8. How many hours are in 2.5 days? Show your work. Let's just continue. So, we can start, and we can, because we're going with half days, let's just kind of mess with the book on this, and let's not play by their rules of 1 to 24. Let's go by halves. So now we have day, we have hour. Well, what's a half a day? If a whole day is 24 hours, what is a half a day? 12 hours, right? So then if we get to 1 whole, 24 hours, day, hour, 1.5. So what's that going to be? 24 plus 12, 36. Then we're going to go with 2 whole, add 12 more, 48. And now we get to 2.5. All we've got to do is add 12 to it, 60. Okay, now we could do it with the table, but we could also do it this way. 2.5 days equals 2 times 1 day plus 1/2 day. Now let's convert. So that's the same as saying 2 times, what's our conversion for one day? 24 hours. 2 times 24 plus 1/2 of 24. And we could do it that way. 1/2 of 24. So when I do that whole thing, I get 2 times 24, which is 48, plus 1/2 of 24, which is 12. And that's going to equal, when we're all said and done, and by the way, we converted our measurement here to hours. Sorry, I didn't put that hours. 60 hours. All right. 16 ounces is equivalent to 1 pound. A lion cub born at the zoo weighs 2.5 pounds. How many ounces does the lion cub weigh? Show your work. 16 ounces is 1 pound. A lion cub born at the zoo weighs 2.5 pounds. Now, we can do this same thing. We can go by halves, or we can do half of. All right. So, pounds, ounces. 1 pound, 16 ounces. 2 pounds, how many ounces? 16 plus 16, right? 32. 3 pounds, 48. Now, I went straight to 3 because I wanted you guys to recognize that our answer is going to be between 32 and 48, because 2 whole pounds is 32, 3 whole pounds is 48, and it's going to be halfway in between these two numbers. So we would say 2 1/2 equals 2 times 1 pound plus 1/2 pound. And I'm going to put this in parentheses and this in parentheses because that's what I have to convert. So that's the same as saying 2 times, what am I converting? Pounds to ounces. So I'm going to change this to 16 ounces plus 1/2 of 16 ounces. So 2 times 16 ounces, pause if you need to, is what? 32 ounces plus 1/2 of 16. 1 times, remember, of means times. 1 times 16 is 16 over 2 is 8. 32 ounces plus 8 ounces, 40 ounces. All right. Hope you guys are ready for a great weekend. Thanks for doing the lesson. I will see you later.